Today we're going to learn the sound of OR and review our soft C and G sounds. Let's start with reviewing the sounds from level 2. In parentheses, I have the lesson where that sound was covered in level 2. Please don't move on until you can get most of these correct. A, E, I, O, U, ch, k, sh, th, sh, y, I, e. Now, if we have a letter C in a word and it comes before an E, I, or a Y, then we always use the soft C sound of S. If the letter C comes before an A, O, or a U, or any consonant, then we use the hard C sound of K. Let's practice with some nonsense words. These are not real words. This is just to see if you can figure out whether you need the hard C sound of K or the soft C sound of S. Here we have a letter C. Do we have an E, I, or a Y? Yes. So we will use the soft sound of S. Selg. Selg. Do we have an E, I, or a Y after the C? Yes. So we will use the soft C sound of S. Selk, selk. Remember, these are not real words. Do we have a C followed by an E, I, or a Y? Yes, so we use the soft sound. Est, sest. We have an I, so we are going to use the soft sound. If, sif. Sig, sig. Imp, simp. Is the C followed by an E, I, or a Y? No. So we're going to use the hard sound of K. K. Alp, kelp. Here we have an O. It's not an E, I, or a Y. So we are going to use the hard sound. K. Und, cond. Is this C followed by an E, I, or a Y? No. So it will use the hard sound of K. K. Uld, culled. Let's practice some nonsense syllables. Remember that at the end of the syllable, we are going to use the vowel's long sound. And for a U, we use the long U sound of U if we can say it easily. But if it's after a letter where the U sound is too hard to say, then we will switch to the OO sound. Tray, tree, try, tro, true. Cray, cree, cry, crow, crew. K, notice these two C's are followed by an E and an I, so we will switch to the soft sound. C, sigh, co, Q. Notice we use the U sound here because we can say that easily after the hard C. But in these two, we use the OO sound because we couldn't say it easily after the R. Let's do this row again, remembering to use the hard C sound before the A, O, and U, and the soft C sound before the E and the I. K, C, sigh, co, Q. Now, soft G is pretty similar to soft C, except that the soft G is not always used before an E, I, or a Y. If you have an E, I, or a Y after a G, the G usually, but does not always, use the soft sound of J. If you have a G before an A, O, U, or any consonants, it will use the hard G sound. So again, if you have a C followed by an E, I, or a Y, it has to use the soft sound of S. But if it's a G before an E, I, or a Y, it will usually use the soft sound of J, but it does not have to. So here we have a mix of words, some that use the soft sound and some that use the hard sound. Now this word has an E, so it will usually use the soft J sound before an E. But this is one of the G words where it still keeps the hard sound. This is probably the most common word where G is followed by an E and still has the hard G sound. G, at, get. Here the G is followed by an A, so it definitely has the hard sound. G, ag, gag. This G is followed by an I, so we will try the soft sound first. J, ist, gist. Here we have an O, so we need the hard sound. G, ought, got. Here we have a G followed by an E, so we will try the soft sound to see if it's a word we recognize. And also remember that ER has what sound? J, germ. G, gum. Here we have a G followed by an I. So most of the time it would use the J sound. However, this is one of the words where it keeps the hard G sound. But if you sounded it out with the soft sound, it would at least be phonetic. So try the soft sound first if it's a word you don't know already. And if you don't recognize the word, try the hard sound to see if that's a word you recognize. Remember here the IR says Let's say you didn't know this word at all, which is fine because you'll always be finding new words you haven't seen before. So then you would sound it out this way. J, earth, jerth. Remember, TH has two sounds, th and th. This word it uses the first sound, th. If you don't know which sound to try th first because it's more common. Now, jerth is not a word. Let's try it with the hard G sound. G, earth, girth. That's a word. However, if you read it jerth and you said it out loud to somebody, they would probably figure out what you meant because you still read it phonetically. Here's another G word where although it's followed by an I, it still uses the hard G sound. Remember that a Y at the end of a long word usually has the long E sound of E. G, id, E, giddy. I have divided this word into two syllables so we can use the nonsense syllables we've been practicing, where at the end of the syllable the vowel has its long sound. This G is followed by an E, so let's try the soft J sound. J, E, G, N, us, genus, genus. Now let's learn about our new sound of OR. OR has the sound of OR at the end of a word or before a consonant. However, if it's after a W, it usually changes to a different sound, which we will cover at the end of this lesson. So for now, when I point to the OR, I want you to say OR, 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 for, orb, orb, orc, orc. Born, born. Ord, cord. Orc, cork. Orn, corn. orm, dorm, orn, horn, orc, pork, ort, port, ort, sort, ort, tort, orn, torn, orc, fork. Let's try some sentences. The ice, remember the soft C because of the E, and the E also makes the I have its long sound. Ice, mice, ave, me, ache, and orn. The nice mice gave me cake and corn. Then the bad pig ate. Remember, at the end of a short word, the Y has the long I sound. I, my, ache. Then the bad pig ate my cake. If you need more practice with OR before lesson 7, please go through Word Mastery, page 95, columns 2 and 3. You can get that for free at Don Potter's website. Now, if you feel like you're doing very well with this, then you can stick around for what happens when you have a W in front of the OR. This part of the lesson is completely optional, and it will probably be too confusing for younger children. So feel free to stop this lesson at this point if the student isn't ready. Now, if you have WOR, it usually, but not always, sounds like were. There are some words where it's or, war, but most of the time it sounds like were. So let's practice that sound here. Were, 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 work, work, worm, worm, word, word, worse, worse. Now this E is not here to change the sound of any vowel. Sometimes at the end of a word, an S sounds like Z. One way to make it clear that the S has the normal sound of S is to have an E after it, and that's what this E is doing. Worst, worst, worth. Remember, TH has two sounds. We are using the first sound of F here, worth. Let's practice some sentences with these sounds. We will have a mix of the were sound and the or sound. Right here in this word, we have a longer word ending in a Y, so we will try the long E sound. Jimmy had the worst pork in the store. You might wonder about this E. It's not actually doing anything in the sentence because this O already has the long O sound of or. But Jenny had the best cake in the store. Jimmy had the worst pork in the store, but Jenny had the best cake in the store. Here we have a Y at the end of a longer word, so we will try the long E sound. Sadly, the best mice. Remember that this E both makes the I have the long I sound and the C have the soft sound of S. What ent, two. I have divided this words into syllables, so we will use the long sound for the vowel at the end of the syllable. Venus, Venus, in the worst spaceship. Sadly, the best mice went to Venus in the worst spaceship. Now, spaceship is actually one word, but I put the hyphen in here to make it easier to read.